About 83% of you guys are not subscribed. Subscribing, clicking that like button, and commenting all help me out a lot in doing what I really want to do. Thank you guys so much for all your support. What is going on, guys? Rogue TCG here, bringing the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG deck profile. You guys asked for it, and here I am providing. We have Dark Magician. All of this week's videos were suggested by my Discord members. If you would like to join them, there should be a link in the description below. Although I am not going to be frequently doing Discord suggestions. I do always take suggestions for deck profiles. However, this week is exclusively Discord deck suggestions. So here's Dark Magician. Was a little bit unclear in what you said with Dark Magician, so I decided to take my own creative twist to it. And I made, as I say creative very liberally, we have Dark Magician Joe Branded. Joe Branded is not leaving office, and neither is Albaz. Albaz is still here. He's still around and still doing stuff. And I feel like he does stuff a lot better than Dark Magician does stuff. And so, in order to try and make Dark Magician's playstyle become a little bit more streamlined, I decided to take it out of its old crappy deck and put it in a nice clean deck, you know what I mean? So here we have Dark Magician Branded. Then fundamentally the whole point of the deck is you're able to selectively dump Dark Magician via Branded Fusion by making Lubellion the Searing Dragon, and then Lubellion can then make Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. But we do also have two other Dark Magician targets, not just one. We do have our Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight, able to protect our back row. And then we additionally have the Dark Magicians, which we can make using Dark Magician and Blazing Cartesia the Virtuous, since that is a spellcaster, allowing us to get an advantage that way. We also use Soul Servant specifically for its graveyard effect, since there's a lot of pitching things in this deck, namely off of Lubellion the Searing Dragon and Branded Opening. And this card does love to be in the graveyard, because if we have Dark Magician on field or in graveyard, we can draw cards equal number of Dark Magicians, Dark Magician Girls, and Palladium monsters we have in field and grave. Typically it's just going to be one for the most part, but getting to draw one is still very strong, especially if we stack the top of its actual effect. But that is enough yapping of the overall deck profile. Let us get into the individual cards. On the Dark Magician portion of our deck, we are on double Dark Magician. I like this art personally, so I'm choosing to use this. The Ultimate Wizard in terms of attack and defense. Not too much to talk about there. We're on 1 Timaeus the United Dragon. We can send a spellcaster or a spell trap that mentions Dark Magician from our hand or face upfield to the graveyard to special summon this card from our hand. And during our main phase, we can fusion summon 1 fusion monster from our extra deck using monsters from our hand or field as material, including a spellcaster monster. We use each effect of Timaeus the United Dragon once per turn. This is a really easy way for us to get into our Dark Magician fusions. It by itself is either Dark Magician the Dragon Knight or Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, which is really clean, but we do need to have Dark Magician beforehand, which is kind of a little bit of an issue with this deck, is finding the Dark Magician. We can find it very easily with the branded cards, but finding it with the Dark Magician cards is slightly more difficult. We are on 1 Magician's Rod. On normal summon, we can add a spell trap that mentions Dark Magician, and during our opponent's turn, if we activate as a hand spell or trap effect all those cards in our graveyard, we contribute a spellcaster and add this card back to our hand. We're only playing 1 because all these Dark Magician cards are very searchable, because they all mention Dark Magician in some capacity, so we are playing multiple searcher cards for them. We're on Double Magician Souls, able to send 2 spell traps from our hand or field to the graveyard while it's on field to draw that many cards. If it's in our hand, we can send a level 6 or higher spellcaster monster from our deck to the graveyard to activate one of the effects, either special summoning Magician Souls or sending to the graveyard to special summon a Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl from our graveyard. This is a really good card, allowing us to instantly load up our Dark Magician in our graveyard. We're not playing too many copies of it though, just because our deck doesn't really synergize with the spell effect, being able to send spells to the graveyard, which is most of the reason why people will play Magician Souls, is because it's either a way to load up a specific spellcaster in the graveyard, and you can dump the cards. But most of the time we are going to be special summoning that Dark Magician to our side of the field in certain circumstances, given we have either Cartesia on field or Timaeus available to be on field. Or even something like Branded in red, you know? Next, we are on Triple Illusion of Chaos. We're never going to be ritual summoning this, although we do have the capabilities to ritual summon it if we do need to. We can ritual summon with Chaos form. We can reveal it in our hand to add a Dark Magician or non-ritual monster that mentions it from our deck to our hand, then placing 1 card on our hand on top of the deck. This allows us to stack our deck with a card that mentions Dark Magician for a card somewhat like Soul Servant, although this will add Timaeus, Magician's Rod, or Magician's Souls from deck to hand, or the Dark Magician, of course. We are on one Eye of Timaeus. We can turn a Dark Magician we control to immediately basically cheat out either a Red Eyes Dark Dragoon or a Dark Magician the Dragon Knight, which is really, really strong. This card also mentions Dark Magician, so I do believe Magician's Rod is able to fetch this. I might be incorrect. It says Dark Magician monster, so maybe I might be wrong on that one, but it's still a good card if we do have the Dark Magician regardless. We're on triple Soul Servant. Place one card on top of the deck from our hand, deck, or graveyard that is Dark Magician or mentions Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl, except for Soul Servant. During your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, draw cards equal to the number of Palladium, Dark Magicians, and Dark Magician Girls with different names on the field and in the graves, and use the effect of Soul Servant once per turn. So it allows us to basically stack our deck if we choose to activate it, and if we don't choose to activate it, or if we do activate it, it's in the graveyard, we can banish it to draw cards, functionally acting like a search card for Dark Magician cards, otherwise acting like just blind drawing. So both scenarios, quite good. And we're on one Secrets of Dark Magic. This is basically just a quick effect fusion from hand and field, including a Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl. So it does need a little bit of setup, which is why we're playing at one, but it is searchable with Magician's Rod. We're on one Dark Magical Circle. When it's activated, look at the top three cards of our deck, reveal one that is Dark Magician or a spell trap that mentions Dark Magician, and add it to your hand. Then place the remaining cards on the top of your deck in any order. If a Dark Magician is no more special, we can target a card our opponent controls and banish it. We're just playing it for the banish effect for the most part. We're playing a very low count of Dark Magician spell traps. We're not even playing half the deck as Dark Magician spell traps or Dark Magician related cards. So the likelihood that this is going to find something is not necessarily the highest, so that's not the reason it's really in here. It's just in here is as long as we can summon Dark Magicians, this is just recursive spot banishing, kind of like Mirror Jade every single turn. So this card is just one of the strongest Dark Magician cards, and I feel like it's kind of necessary to include. We're on one Magician Salvation. On activation, it'll set an Eternal Soul from our deck to our field. Every Dark Magician in your monster zone is unaffected by your opponent's card effects. If this face-up card leaves the field, destroy all monsters you control. You can use the following effects of Eternal Soul once per turn. You can only activate one of these effects: special summoning a Dark Magician from our hand or graveyard, or adding a Dark Magic attack or 1,000 Knives from our deck to our hand. Never going to be adding those secondary cards, they're kind of bad, but special summoning a Dark Magician every turn, just an infinite giant asshole machine, is really great. But that's it for our Dark Magician portion. We are on, I believe, 16 or 17 cards. I think 17 cards of the Dark Magician portion in the main deck. So not the worst, not the smallest engine. So it's not just like a very tiny splash of Dark Magician. I am trying to play as many Dark Magician cards as I realistically can. We're on Double Fallen of Albaz. I don't think I really need to go over him too much. He's just kind of a material, but he can be a super poly on likes. We're on one Albion the Shrouded Dragon, just another copy of Albaz, and if it's in graveyard, we can send a branded spell trap to the graveyard to add it back to deck. And if it's in hand, we can do the same, but also draw a card. We are on triple Eluber Jester of Despia. On No More Special, we'll add a branded spell trap, and then it does something related to fusions when a fusion leaves the field and it's in the graveyard. We're in one Ad Libitum. We're a little bit heavy on Despia here, just because we can bring back cards like Red Eyes Dark Dragoon and our Dark Magicians, so it just makes our Ad Libitum even tastier. So we're on the one Ad Libitum for that. If it's sent to the graveyard or banishment for a fusion material, as fusion material for a fusion summon, we can bring back either a Despia or a level 8 or higher fusion monster from our graveyard or banishment. Except for itself, just really great for bringing back a Dragoon that was outed. We are on one Despian Tragedy. If it's sent to the graveyard or banishment for card effect, we get to add a Despian monster from deck to hand. Pretty much always going to be Ad Libitum, because we're most of the time going to be sending this off of Branded Fusion if we don't need to be sending Dark Magician. And then if it's in our graveyard, we can banish it except the turn it was sent there. And if it's in our graveyard, we can banish it, add a branded spell trap from our graveyard back to our hand, but we can't use both of those effects in the same turn. We're on one Guiding Quem the Virtuous is our last Despia monster. It's always a Dogmatic and a Despia. If it's no more special, we can send an Albaz or a card that mentions it from our deck to the graveyard. If a card leaves the extra deck, except during the damage step, we can target an Albaz or a card that mentions it in our graveyard and special summon it. Really great. This card is a lot more unassuming than it would seem. This card's really strong, especially paired with Blazing Cartesia, basically allowing you to get access to instant speed fusions on your opponent's turn. as long as they summon something from the extra deck, of course, or you summon something from the extra deck. And then we are on Bestials. We're on. This is just in order to make our Dragoon a little bit more feasible since it needs a Dragon Effect monster. So we're on Bestial Lubellion, Druiswarm, Magnamut, and Saronir. Just the best ones. Saronir being able to dump a branded spell trap if it's sent to the graveyard. And then we're on Double Blazing Cartesia. During the main phase, quick effect, we can fusion summon using cards from our hand or field as material. And if we have an Albaz or we have it in our graveyard, we can special it from our hand. If it's in the graveyard at the end of the turn and the fusion was sent to graveyard that turn, we can add it back to hand. So it's really great fodder for our Red Eyes Dark Dragoon discards for negation. And then our last two one-of monsters is one Tri-Brigade Mercurier and one Springin's Kit, just to be able to find our branded spells a little easier with Kit. And then Mercurier, we are playing branded Lost because of Lubellion, and it's just really good in this deck. So this is just a free search target to get an extra piece of interaction. We're on triple branded fusion, of course, one Foolish Burial, typically going to be sending the Tragedy with this, but we could also send the Albion or whatever piece we are explicitly missing. We're on triple fusion deployment, really great in this deck, being able to special summon Dark Magician, Fallen of Albaz, and Blazing Cartesia the Virtuous is just quite strong. We have 3 really good targets in our deck. Being able to get Dark Magician on field is just a really great way to get into rotation, of course. We're on one Gold Sark. This is also for our Despian Tragedy. We really want to be finding our branded portion of the deck, and since it counts banishment, this is a way to get an Eluber to our hand. We're on double branded and High Spirits. Everything in this deck is a branded and High Spirits target. We have Spellcasters, we have Dragons, we have Fairies, we have more Fairies. Actually, I might be lying about everything. Maybe the Fairies aren't branded High Spirits targets. I kind of forgot about those, to be honest. We have more Spellcasters. For Spellcasters, we have Albion the Sanctifier Dragon, and of course, Grand Kukanal the Dusk Dragon. For Dragons, we have, of course, Lubellion. We have the Mirror Jade. We have Albion, you know, the works. And then we do have a Beast and a Winged Beast. We do have a Winged Beast, but we don't have a Beast. We have Rinbrum the Striking Dragon. So this is also something we can make with that. And then the last couple cards of our deck, we are on one branded in red, just a card to be setting off of Albion when we send it to graveyard. Triple branded opening, again, we really want to be finding our branded line, and this is really good paired with Soul Servant. We're on one Called by the Grave to prevent hand traps, one branded and lost whenever a fusion monster, the activations of our cards and effects that include an effect that fusion summons a fusion monster cannot be negated, and your opponent cannot activate cards or effects when a monster is fusion summoned this way. If you fusion summon a fusion monster, you can add one Fallen of Albaz or a monster that mentions it from our deck to our hand, making our fusion summons uninteractable for the most part, and being able to basically search a card once per turn whenever we fusion summon. Really great, especially since it can add Cartesia, it can add Mercurier, it can add Springin's Kit, it can add Albion, the Shrouded Dragon, it can even add Albaz himself, add Quem. It adds so many different cards, it's just really strong. But that's going to be it for our main deck. Now let's just quickly go over our extra, even though I explained a lot of it. We're on one Titaniclad the Ash Dragon. This is another card we can be sending to the graveyard for dragons. At the end, if we send this to the graveyard during the end phase, it'll special summon Guiding Quem from our deck, just a really strong card. We're on one Rinbrum the Striking Dragon. This is a branded fusion target for negation, or pretty decent branded High Spirits target if we send Mercurier. We are on one Masquerade the Tax Dragon. We're playing Despia's and fusion cards. Double Lubellion, we just want to always make sure we have one of these in rotation, and this can also recycle all of our other fusion cards for the most part. One Grand Kukanal the Dust Dragon, it's pretty much in here because we do need the target for the fusion deployment for the Cartesia, but it's also a crazy card in brain, allowing us to, again, send our Albion or our Titaniclad. We are on one Despian Queritus. We can hard make this, but most of the time, if we are going to be summoning this, we're going to be summoning it off of Grand Kukanal's effect. If our opponent special summons a monster using a monster effect, we can special summon a Despian monster from our extra deck, being Queritus. We're on one Albion, basically allowing us to Necro Fusion. Really great stuff. One Dragos Depelia for corner cases and against certain matchups, like synchro heavy matchups. Dragos Depelia is just incredibly strong. One, the Dark Magicians. It needs Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl plus a Spellcaster. Like I said, we can make it with Cartesia. Once returning a spell trap is activated, except during the damage step, you can draw a card that if it's a spell trap, you can set it, and if it was a trap or a quick play spell, you can activate it this turn. If this card is destroyed, you can special summon both one Dark Magician and one Dark Magician Girl from our hand, deck, and or graveyard. So we're not going to be summoning both of those monsters, unfortunately. Dark Magician Girl is just not good enough to really play, unfortunately. However, that effect to draw cards whenever we activate a spell is really good for recouping lost card advantage, especially after we lose card advantage with stuff like Bellion and Branded Opening. Just being able to get that card back and get a fresh draw is really nice. Run 1 Dragoon. This is a negate. This is a pop. It's protected. Just really good. 1 Mirror Jade. 1 Dark Magician the Dragon Knight. Your opponent can't target spells, traps you control with card effects, and they cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects. Really good, especially paired with Eternal Soul Salvation, and then like Branded in Red, for example, just protecting your Branded in Red, Branded Lost, Branded Regained. Just a really cool card that has some niche Knights synergies in this deck. 1 Albion the Sanctifier Dragon needs Fallen of Albaz plus a Light Spellcaster, so we can't be making this with our Dark Magicians. However, this is just another card that we are able to make. And then lastly, our Guardian Chimera, the main target for our Branded in Red, being able to pop cards and draw cards during our opponent's turn. But that's the end of this deck profile. Thank you all so much for watching. I think this deck is neat. I don't think this is the best thing to be doing with Branded, although it might be one of the better things to be doing with Dark Magicians. I just hope that no more Dark Magician support comes out. I hope this deck just gets left the fuck alone and they never print another Dark Magician support card again, because I am very, very tired of seeing the same old cards being printed in every single goddamn Megaton. I want to stop seeing Dark Magician cards, and I want to see cooler cards. I want to see cards for cool archetypes. Not for Dark Magician. Dark Magician isn't cool anymore. It's just fucking bat chest, like, it's just bait for, people who are really into the anime in order to get into the show. And I understand that they just make the cards because it's popular. But god damn, can we stop making Dark Magician cards? Like, they literally have a card that searches and draws cards, and it can draw more than 1 card, and the deck isn't playable. And then we have a Dark Magic Circle. It's like a combination of Mirror Jade and Pot of Duality. So it's like, this deck literally has everything. They have a card that literally adds any Dark Magician related card from deck to hand for the most part, and they're still not good. So no matter what you give this deck, it isn't necessarily going to be good, just because there are so many cards that need to have other cards in the deck. There's just so many Dark Magician cards that you need to be playing that you can't play anything good. You can't play any good cards in the Dark Magician deck because it is the Dark Magician deck. Unless you're going to be playing 60 cards, in which then in that case it's not going to be consistent. So there's no real winning with Dark Magician in my opinion. So I believe this is probably the best that the deck can realistically do, at least given what I'm able to do with the deck. I would like to hear what thoughts you guys have about Dark Magician in the comments, but other than that, I'll be seeing you all later. Bye bye! Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you wanted to talk to more Yu-Gi-Oh! Players like yourself, I would highly recommend checking out our Discord server. Link is going to be in the description, as well as the QR code on screen. We do talk somewhat frequently about Yu-Gi-Oh! And the current meta, so I would really enjoy to see you there. As well as we do recently now have channel memberships available on our YouTube channel, where we have 3 different tiers. We have Super Supporter at $2 a month, where you get loyalty badges, emojis, guaranteed comment responses, a shout out at the end of every video, as well as access to the members only Discord channel, where you get early sneak peeks at future videos. There is the Giga Supporter at $5 a month, where you have early access to all new videos about a day or 2 before they go up, as well as all the previous offers. And for $15 a month, we do have our final tier, which is going to be Femboy Fanatic. You get a guaranteed customized video every single month, as well as 1 hour of my time. Could be for anything you'd like. You want a duel? Absolutely. You want me to help build a deck? Absolutely. You want to play some Helldivers? Sure. I'll do anything for an hour once a month. But supporting does help me out quite a lot, and it does help me produce all of these videos. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be seeing y'all later. Bye-bye.